This class will be for golfers. If you have a club, please use it. If not, you can do this with a strap. So golfers do a lot of twisting. So to warm up for that, we're going to start with tapping on our chest. You can use fingertips or you can make soft fists. We're doing this to encourage noticing the area of the breath. So right now we're tapping just underneath the collarbones, so this upper chest area. And now we're going to switch using either fingertips or again soft fists and tapping on our kidneys, so this low back region. We're just kind of waking up these areas, these points, to remember that golf is a full body sport and our breath is critical in helping us with our golf game. So now go back to tapping on the chest, back to tapping on the back. And now we're going to do 1 and 1. So we're going to cross over and tap here and cross back and tap here. And then switch. And then switch. And switch. And switch. Now, separate your feet a little bit wider than your hips, and we're going to do 1 and 1. So tap, 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 tap. And you'll notice I'm starting to bring in some movement in my torso. And start to notice your breath. And now I'm going to allow my hands to, rather than be in soft fists and be up high, I'm going to allow my hands to be a little more free. And I'm going to allow them to tap the outside of my hips, my waist, maybe my thighs, wherever it feels sort of good and comfortable to you. The gaze can follow with this twist, or you can keep your gaze forward if that's too jarring for you. And you can also start to begin to make this bigger by lifting the opposite heel. So when you twist to one side, you lift the opposite heel. And now you're starting to do what's called helicopter sometimes. We refer to this as helicopter, and it's really nice to do this if you've been sitting for a while. So if you've been waiting a long time, you could do this on the golf course. Just kind of warm yourself back up. Maybe you had a long drive to get to the golf course. This is a nice way to start to bring some movement and mobility into your hips, your feet, your thighs, and of course that torso. And then start to bring this to smaller and smaller movements. So just unwind, unwind, unwind. Eventually bring yourself back to center. Allow your gaze to be soft, focusing forward, and notice any of those radiant sensations throughout your body. All right, from here, pick up your golf club. Or if you're not using a golf club, you can be using a strap for this. So we're going to work on the torso and opening up these intercostal muscles on the sides and our triceps for our arms. So to begin, let's pick up the golf club in one hand and open it up overhead. So we're starting with our tricep here, and if it's feeling a little bit tight or sore, we're just going to give it some time. So we're going to breathe and we're going to assess how are things feeling today. You could take this opposite hand and place it anywhere along that tricep, even maybe towards the elbow. And maybe if it was winging out to the side, if you're really tight, it's winging out to the side, just invite, just to see what it feels like to bring it up towards this ear. How does that feel? What do you notice? I'm not doing anything in particular with my feet right now. Now, if that feels pretty accessible, then I'm gonna invite you to take your bottom hand and then clasp that club. Anywhere along the club is fine. And again, a strap would be the same concept. You just clasp. Anywhere is fine. And just notice here, how does this feel in my body? Breathing. And when you're ready to release, you'll release the bottom hand first and then release the top arm. Take a moment, maybe roll the shoulders. And when you're ready, we'll switch to the other side. So if you're using the strap, place it in the other hand and bring that elbow towards the ceiling. Again, it might be tight, it might be out here, that's fine. Don't force anything. Just keep noticing, maybe with more breath, more time. Maybe you kind of linger where you are, respect your body always where it is. And then maybe you take your other hand anywhere along this arm. Maybe you invite that elbow closer towards the ear. Notice what happens when you do. Maybe this is enough for right now. If you want to go further, you would release the bottom hand, clasp that club. And from here, if you're feeling like, I've got a little room here, you want to spice it up, just go ahead and start to walk that bottom hand closer towards the top. Maybe the top fingers reach further down towards the bottom. Maybe the fingers reach each other. It doesn't matter. Anywhere is fine, but you can start to pull the hands apart from each other. So when you're pulling your bottom hand down and pulling your top hand up, now we've turned the heat level up a little bit. And again, we're breathing. So we're noticing all along our front chest here, we're noticing sensations, the breath moving up and back down as we exhale. And when you're ready to release the bottom hand, top hand comes around behind. Pause here, roll the shoulders. Maybe you created a little bit of tension doing that, so roll the shoulders. And now from here, we're going to take our club or our strap with our feet hip distance apart. We're going to hold on to that strap or that club and start to expand your arms so that they're outside your shoulders. So it's not inside the shoulders, it would be outside the shoulders. And from here, again, you can start to engage those arms and engage that core by imagining you could rip this golf club or rip that strap apart. So press down through your feet, extend up through the crown of your head, turn on those abdominal muscles. And now from here, inhale and start to extend the arms up overhead. Notice what's happening in those armpits. Notice what's happening in those elbows, those triceps. Exhale and bring the club, the arms back down through center and by your sides. And now link this breath with movement with breath. So press down through the heels. As you inhale, lift the arms up overhead. So allow the movement to match the entire inhale. So when you reach the top of the inhale, the arms are overhead. As you're ready to exhale, take the arms down as you're exhaling. And when you reach the bottom of your exhale, then the strap or the club is at the bottom. 2 more times like this. And this last one, I want you to pause when you reach the top of your inhale. Don't pause your breath, just pause the movement. And notice what's happening here. So we're not back bending. So I don't go like this. I don't stick my butt out and I don't go for a big back bend here because I want to respect the integrity of my spine. So I'm allowing my heels to dig into the floor underneath me. If you're wearing shoes, that's fine too. Just press down through those heels, lift up through the upper body, and then exhale. All right, you might start to notice we've got some opening going up in here. Now we're gonna get into the side of the body. So inhale, lift that club or that strap up overhead, and now tilt to one side. So we're leaning to one side. We're gonna pause here, see how that feels on that side that's opening up, even the bottom side. Notice what's happening there. Can you create some space, even though you're leaning? Can you create some space there? Maybe take that gaze upwards towards that club head. And now take your gaze downwards and tilt your club or your strap towards the floor. Take your gaze towards the floor. Look to the outside foot here. Breathe here. Notice if anything is gripping unnecessarily. Now inhale, tilt yourself back up towards the ceiling. Press down through the feet. Inhale, come up center. Exhale, lower down to your center. Now before we switch to the other side, take a moment to pause. Take a moment in that pause and notice sensations between the side that we just worked and the side that we haven't done yet. So when you're ready, press into the feet, lift the arms up overhead, and then angle to one side. So lean away. Notice how that feels. And notice what's happening in your head and your neck. If it feels accessible, you can look up towards that top hand. If that doesn't feel accessible, you can look forward, pressing down through the feet. Now on an exhale, lean towards the floor. So take that club towards the floor so it's horizontal. We're looking to the outside of that opposite leg. Inhale, lean back upwards towards the sky. Take the gaze up if it feels okay in your neck. Press into your feet. Inhale, lifting all the way up again. And exhale, lower the arms down by your sides. Now your core is getting pretty warm right here. So you might notice that and just pause for a moment. So golfers do a lot of pauses while they're waiting or when they're getting warmed up. Even before they hit the ball, they do what I think is called addressing the ball, where they find their stance. They look at their placement of the golf club, the angle, they look where they're going, but they address the ball because they want to make sure that when they take that swing, everything is as precise as possible to make the best result. So I'm going to invite that as you address the ball, address your breath. So no one has to know that you're doing something else, but you, if you do this enough, it will become intuitive that when you start to address your ball, you address your breath. Breath before ball, breath before ball. So notice your breath. Your breath is facilitating this stance as well as your swing, your follow through. Breath is so important. So that's just a little tidbit. All right, so now we're gonna go into some lunges. If you don't have a club that you're doing this with, you could use a chair as well. It'll work just fine. I'm gonna turn to the side so you can see from the side. So my feet are going to be about hips width apart, and my club is going to be right in the center. Again, I'm using this for balance right now. From here, I'm going to place my left hand on the club, my right hand on my hip. And I'm going to pick up my right heel and step that foot back into a high lunge. And the front knee will start to come into a slight bend here. So we're coming into a lunge and my right heel is lifted. So adjust your stance. Adjust it for length so that the back heel is lifted upward. Also adjust it so that you're not feeling like you're on a tightrope, but that you've got some space like you're on train tracks. Now from here, we're gonna link some movement with our breath. So when we inhale, we'll bend to the front knee and we'll lift this right arm up. And when we exhale, we'll lower our hand and we'll start to straighten that front leg. It does not straighten to the point that the knee locks up. We just unbend it. So if you've got shoulder pain going on, you can use cactus arm here. Otherwise, you'll bend into the knee, inhale and rise up. You can lift your gaze and then exhale, lower arm and unbend front knee. Inhale, rising up, feeling from your pinky to your heel, all that space we just created. Now we're taking full deep breaths, smooth deep breaths. One more time here. And there should be no tension in that front leg as it's bending. We'll exhale. Now bend into the front foot. Use a little bit of weight forward to pick up that back heel and step it forward. We're gonna pause here and just kind of notice how things feel. If you need to wiggle and jiggle or shake things out, if you created some tension, just shake it out a little bit. And we're gonna do the same movement second time, and we're gonna add a twist. So again, using either your chair or your club, you're gonna step the right foot back, heel is lifted. Now we're gonna take the club to the outside of our left foot. So you might want to reach to the outside of your chair at this point. I place my left hand to my left hip, and from here, I'm gonna start to twist on my exhale. I'm gonna inhale and untwist, exhale and come into the twist. Now, if you've got back stuff going on, really be gentle, take care. You don't have to twist very far. You're just noticing what it feels like. So we're warming up. We're not coming into our fullest expression yet. Another option here could be that as you twist, this left hand extends towards the wall behind you, or if you're outside, something behind you. And then as you inhale, you untwist. So I like to do this movement with breath. When I'm warming up, I'm not holding the twist yet. I'm just finding out how things are feeling in my back today. If you had really good balance, another thing you could try maybe is to take your club and use it as you twist. And so you would inhale, come to center, and exhale, come into the twist. Not too many of those. Step your back foot forward. Not too many of those. You want to use it as a warm-up, but you don't want to exhaust yourself or twist too far before you've even made it onto the course. That's not going to be a great day for you. All right, pause here. Notice the difference between the two sides. Again, if you need to shake something out, let that be, okay? And then we'll switch to the other side. So we'll pick up our left leg and place the ball of the foot behind us. Our heel is lifted. And we'll start with that movement where when we inhale, we bend into the front knee and we lift the left arm now up overhead. Now this isn't a huge back bend, but if you want a little back bend, that would be fine. When you exhale, you lower hand and straighten front knee. Inhale, lift. You can lift the gaze as well if you have your balance. Exhale, lower. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Notice what's happening in your core as you're doing this. When you inhale, your navel tracks towards your spine. When you exhale, it releases. Press in, come forward, pause for a moment here. So when you're breathing and you're moving, it's sometimes hard to notice this, but when we do these movements, we want to use a little bit of slight contraction. That helps the entire core so that it's not just turning something, one part on and one part. No, we have to have it integrated. These are integrated movements. Let's try this again with the twist. So stepping that left foot back, heel is lifted. And again, this could be done, with your chair. We're going to take the golf club to the outside. So now my left hand can hold onto the golf club for some balance. My right hand comes to my right hip. When I inhale, I inhale and come up and I'm forward. When I exhale, I come across and I twist. And I'm just doing this with breath in a way that invites the twist and sensation and noticing how things are feeling for me. It's a second side, so it might feel totally different than the first side. If I feel like I want a little more, you can always add by extending the back hand, taking the gaze with you. And then if your balance was feeling really good, or if you want to test your balance, you could take your club and use it across you as you're twisting. So after you've had some fun trying different ways of twisting, bring the back heel up, bring yourself back center, and pause and notice. So now I'm going to use the golf club as a visual to make my feet wide. So I'm going to take my feet as wide as maybe the length of the club. Depending on your height, you might have to adjust that. And I'm just going to place it down on the floor. It's okay if you can't see it, but that's the visual. So my legs are wide. I'm going to pick up one heel and pivot it. So now I'm going to place my hands on my hips. We're going to come into doing some warrior poses. So my front knee is going to bend. So again, check the width of your stance, making sure it's comfortable for you, that you can bend into this knee. It doesn't have to be 90-degree bend, but the knee is tracking over the second toe. So it's not tracking over the big toe or the pinky, but right over that second toe. And you can bend it as much as it feels appropriate in your body. And my hands are going to come behind me. I'm going to clasp my hands. If that's not available to you, maybe use a strap or a towel. If it's available, you clasp your hands, bend into this front knee, take your hands to the back hip. From here, we're going to start to lean. Now we're not rolling forward. Remember, we did all that opening up and leaning so that we've got space. So use that space now and start to lean forward. And then with our hands on this back hip, we're going to squeeze our elbows together. We can take our gaze upward. Maybe that's okay for your neck. We could take our gaze just in front of us. And maybe we could take our gaze down towards our foot. So just play with where it feels comfortable, or where you want to explore taking your gaze, squeezing those elbows together, breathing, noticing sensations. And when you're ready, press into your feet, inhale, lift yourself up, and even here, start to lean backwards towards this open space that you've created now. And then release your hands, and we'll pivot that foot forward. Pause for a moment, and then we'll switch to the other side. So pivot the other foot now. And again, play with the stance. So don't just go into a pose, but take a minute here to play with the stance. Maybe your golf club was too short, your legs are longer. So extend that stance so that you can really start to feel the strength in your legs. So press into your feet, allow your toes to lift. We're not going to scrunch our toes. So toes are lifting, and now place the toes back down on the floor. Even if you were wearing shoes, you could still do that. So even in your shoes, you could do this even on the golf course maybe. Wherever you feel comfortable doing this, it's so necessary to protect your body and your spine. Clasp your hands or grab your towel, bend into that front knee, place the clasped hands to the back hip, squeeze the elbows together. Now lean towards your front thigh. Breathe here. So there's space even on this underneath side. So even though it might seem like we're just opening up the top side of our rib cage, create space so that you're breathing even on this lower side of the rib cage. And squeeze your elbows together and play with maybe the head looks down, making sure that our knee is tracking over the second toe. Maybe we look forward. Maybe we look towards the sky. When you're ready, I like to look down before I come up so I can press into my feet as I'm lifting up, inhaling, and then I get to this point where I want to exhale and I lean back. And then inhale, come center. Place your hands to your hips. Draw your feet back to center, hands on hips, and feel yourself grounding in this position. So press your hands into your hips, press your feet down, let your elbows get wide. Take up space here. Scan the horizon. So take your eyes to the farthest point wherever you are. And then from here, bend your knees. And you can either pick up your feet or just shift your feet, dance your feet, whatever you want to do to bring your feet back underneath your hips. We're going to close this out with some poses you can do on your back, either for before you start your practice or when you come home when you're finished.